How's it going, everybody? Devin Mack here. Boy, has it been a while since I made a video like this. Just a classic unscripted rant. But today I wanted to talk about something topical. With Sonic Prime Season 3 on the horizon, I thought I'd talk about Sonic's characterization in his latest adaptations. Specifically from the Sonic movies and from Sonic Prime. Now, if you're a high media literate like me, you know that Sonic is a flat character. He shouldn't really go through a character arc. He's fine the way that he is, flaws and all, and he should be inspiring other characters to go through character arcs instead. But with Sonic Prime and the Sonic movies, he's been going through character arcs. Now, it's not that bad with the Sonic movies because that's not canon, and it's its own separate Sonic, and of course, it's an origin story for Sonic, so he does have to go through a character arc. You know, logically it makes sense, but with Sonic Prime, it's said to be canon, so Sonic is introduced with a bunch of character flaws that he shouldn't have in this time in the timeline, wherever it takes place in the timeline, because we don't even know when it takes place in the timeline because everything's all jumbled up. There's Shadow, there's Cubone Orbot, there's the Eggman Empire's a new thing apparently. Everyone lives in Green Hills. Yeah, I don't know. I'm betting on the Sonic Prime Sonic just like shattering the universe and it actually reforms into the game Sonic. So Sonic Prime is canon in the sense that the universe just like implodes and then becomes a game universe. But enough about the canonicality of Sonic Prime. That's not the topic. It's about Sonic's character arcs. So the question is, why is that? Like, don't they know that Sonic is a flat character? And I think there are a few explanations for this. I believe that Pat Casey, who's one of the writers for the Sonic movies, is actually 100% aware of this. Like, he knows that Sonic is a flat character, but it's just because of studio meddling. In the GHC podcast, they've interviewed Pat Casey a few times, and Pat Casey talks about how he pitched the Sonic movie to be a story where Sonic was already a hero and he was just going on his biggest adventure, which makes a lot of more sense. Like, it's like that feels like more of a Sonic movie. But then you also have Jeff Fowler's pitch, which is more closer to the movie that we got, and that was the one that was selected. Now, I'm not saying Jeff Fowler is the reason why Sonic is not like Sonic in the movies, but what I am saying is that the studio specifically picked his pitch for a reason. Jeff Fowler could 100% be aware of what a Sonic movie should be, but he might have written a pitch a little bit more differently just because he knows that the studio executives will eat it up and select his pitch. Because the reality of it is, if they don't like the pitch, they won't greenlight the movie and they'll get someone else to write or direct it. I think Pat Casey demonstrates his knowledge of Sonic as a character in the Drone Home short, where Sonic is less like, you know, the ADHD kid that he is in the movies, and he's a much better leader. Like, Sonic as a character in the games rushes into things, but he only does it when he's confident. He's got a level of emotional intelligence to him, so he's not just gonna beat something up just to beat it up. But of course, when it comes to Eggman's robots, Sonic's just gonna beat him up, and that's what he does with Gamma before Amy stops him in Sonic Adventure. And the Drone Home short actually kind of mirrors it because he gets tied up, he can't fight him, so then Tails just recommends to just talk to the robot. So Sonic uses that emotional intelligence of his to get the robot to stop carrying out Dr. Eggman's plans. So even if movie Sonic doesn't feel like game Sonic now, that's definitely the direction where they're trying to push him towards. They're trying to get him to grow into game Sonic. Another thing Pat Casey mentioned is that the studio executives, they wanted a child character to be in the movie. And they didn't want a human character to be a child, they wanted him to be an adult. So what do? They aged down Sonic, so the excuse was, well, Sonic is now the child character that you wanted, so we don't need a child actor. And there you can see how they have to sacrifice what they believe Sonic was to appease the studio executives. And a similar situation could have happened with Sonic Prime. Maybe they were planning to make Sonic a flat character, but again, because of studio executives, because they don't know that One Piece exists, they think that the main character needs to go through a character arc. Which is such a lame way to look at it. Like, obviously, you do need a character to go through an arc, but why does it have to be the main character, the protagonist? If we maybe kept Sonic as like a mature figure that was super cool and super inspirational, and then he changed like Tom's life in the movies, or he inspires Tails in Sonic Prime, that would be a much more accurate depiction of what Sonic is, but also have that character arc bit to keep the audience engaged with the characters. Because they're not wrong, the character needs to be interesting, but why does it have to be the main character that's interesting? Why can't it be the side characters that are more interesting? Because the perfect Sonic movie or TV series isn't one where Sonic is the protagonist, it's when Tails is the protagonist, it's when Knuckles is the protagonist, it's when anyone else is having a character arc. Which brings me to Sonic X, because that's the most accurate Sonic has been in a TV series or movie. But the problem with Sonic X is, like, it was made by a Japanese studio, so they understood that a little bit more due to, you know, influences of One Piece and Dragon Ball, so they understood the idea of a flat character, and they implemented it, but because Sonic isn't popular in Japan, they had to shove in Chris Thorndike. It's just like the Sonic movie executives. It's like, you gotta have a child character, so they did that in Japan because he doesn't have the brand recognition that he does outside of Japan. So there's two ways we can get a good Sonic series. One, Sonic just becomes popular in Japan and it becomes a big enough icon where the studios feel like they can actually trust Sonic to perform well on its own, and then they just make a good anime of it without having to shove in elementary school students. I think it's actually crazy to me how young these characters are. What the heck? Now the second thing I was gonna say is just like, Sonic just better make good games. Like, a reputation is everything. If he has a good reputation, if what the mainstream audience like about him is that he's a flat character, they'll make him a flat character in their adaptations. But I just remembered the live action One Piece gave Luffy a character arc, which he doesn't have in like the first 100 chapters, and that's how much they adapted in live action, so that's another thing. Maybe a good adaptation just will never happen in the West, at least. Another thing Pat Casey did mention is that a lot of stakeholders are involved in movies, and you have to appease them all. Otherwise, they're going to pull out. They're not going to give you their money, and they need that money to make the movie. So what do? You have to play it safe. You have to give Sonic that character arc. You have to go, look, he has a character arc, so everyone will be engaged. Because these stakeholders, they're not artists, they're businessmen, so they don't really truly know what makes a good movie. You just tell them what they want to hear, and they'll give you their money. And sometimes that doesn't get in the way of things. Like, Captain America is a flat character. He doesn't go through any character arcs, and his movies they exist. Which means a flat character can work. But again, these stakeholders, they're very dumb. They probably haven't even watched Captain America movies, so they don't know. This actually brings me to an interesting point, because the Sonic movies don't actually have a lot of Sonic music. And when the Mario movie came out, it was revealed that there was a scene where they wanted to use a specific music piece from the games, and the studio was against it. Eventually, they did get to use that music in the movie, but the fact that they had to fight for it is insane, because the studio thought that the audience wouldn't get the reference. Now, this is Mario we're talking about. Everyone will get the reference. And there was also another scene where they did have music composed for it. I think it might have been based on another Mario game's music thing, but then it was replaced with Take On Me. And like, the song is complete. It's literally in the soundtrack. You can listen to it, and they just replaced it with Take On Me. So you can see the studio executives are hella out of touch. They don't trust the audience to get the reference, and even if they don't get the reference, why does it matter? It's like still good music that fits the movie better because it's based on Mario, so you use the Mario-esque music, not the Take On Me. But imagine that Mario had those problems. They did, you know, in some areas they were able to use music, in some areas they weren't. Now you think about Sonic the Hedgehog, which has a very bad reputation amongst society, for no good reason. And these studio executives already don't have like a positive view of video games, like with the Mario movie. So, you know, the Mario movie could fight back. They've got the reputation to back them up. Sonic doesn't have the reputation to back them up. Like, yeah, everyone will get Green Hill Zone. That's awesome. That's the only music they use, because everyone will only get Green Hill Zone. I guess everyone will also get City Escape, but, you know, that's for Sonic 3. You gotta save that for Sonic 3. So yeah, all you can use is Green Hill Zone, literally. But if you start playing Labyrinth Zone, Ice Cap Zone, Knuckles' theme, Eggman's in-game theme, no one will get that. I'm surprised that they were able to sneak in a Hyper Potions track in the original Sonic movie. But outside of that, it's just Green Hill Zone and Robotnik's theme from The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is a pretty good deep cut. I will admit, but it's more like a reference, like it's not a remix of the original music, so I guess it kind of went under the radar. If they would actually license music from the games and then remix it, it would probably have to go through some legal stupidly-doo stuff, and then that would not go under the radar. How did they even use the Hyper Potions track? The Hyper Potions track wasn't even in Sonic Mania, it was for the trailer, it wasn't even from the games, what? I guess Hyper Potions didn't even know about it, so I guess it technically did go under the radar. They just found out when the movie came out. I don't even know, bro. But in contrast to that, Crush 40 have heard that they are talking about using Live and Learn in Sonic the Hedgehog 3 the movie, and that's probably because they actually do need to get their permission, and legal stuff, so it will be harder to get live and learn in the movies. If they could just use live and learn on a whim, they probably wouldn't be hearing all these rumblings, and we wouldn't have known through a James Cage live stream. But then that also comes to question, like, how far are they willing to go? Are they only going to use live and learn? I would like the rest of Sonic Adventure 2 soundtrack to be used in the Sonic Adventure 2 movie, please. Onegaishimasu. Paramount Pictures? Another thing I do want to touch on is like the live action aspect of the Sonic movies. Like, why are they live action instead of fully animated? And live action is just such a it's good money. People don't watch cartoons. You know how well Spider-Verse did? Not very well. I mean, it did well enough, but then it became a cult classic afterwards, and then it did very well in the sequel. But point is that executives think that cartoons are just for kids exclusively, so if they do make adult cartoons, it has to be super mature. And when I mean super mature, I mean super immature and making a lot of very nasty jokes and very bad words are said a lot. I guess the idea is that a live action movie, like, adults will just come and see it, and with a cartoon, adults will only come and see it if their kid wants to see it, which I guess equals less profit. So unless we get like the Spider-Verse guys to make a Sonic movie, we're just never gonna get a good Sonic movie, guys. It's just how it is. It is what it is. It is. Maybe DreamWorks should make a Sonic movie. Just a reputable animation studio that is not Pixar or Disney or Illumination. But yeah, that's it for the video. Leave a like, leave a comment, talk about it. Subscribe, please. I don't know. I didn't really have much to say. That's it. That's the end of the video, guys. I just need to stretch it out until the gameplay ends. I just want to end it on the gameplay where I just hit the time capsule, the egg capsule, the animal capsule, the flicky capsule, and then the video will end. And then I don't know.